Allara Voss didn't lose me when she broke my heart at 17. She lost me years later when she finally started loving me the right way. And I still chose to leave. At the ferry station, she stood 3 steps behind me in the rain, close enough to stop me, gentle enough not to. And that was the cruelest part. She had finally become the woman I once needed, after I had become someone who could walk away. Tell me in the comments, would you stay for who they became, or leave for who you are now? Now let me tell you how Allara Voss learned that loving me meant letting me go. The first time Allara Voss walked away from me, I was 17. This time, I was the one holding the suitcase. The ferry station at Alder Bay always looked sad in the rain, like a public building with seasonal depression. The roof leaked in 3 places. The vending machine blinked out of service, even though everyone knew it had been out of service since 2018. A gull stood near the trash can with the exhausted posture of a divorced accountant. I stood beneath the narrow awning with my duffel bag at my feet, my medical license tucked carefully inside a folder, and a temporary 4-week fellowship letter folded in the pocket of my coat. North Harbor City Hospital. 4 weeks. Emergency medicine rotation. Rural health grant placement. Better equipment, better training, better distance. Distance was the important part. The ferry horn sounded once through the rain. Behind me, 3 steps away, Allara Voss said my name like she was afraid it might break if she used it too hard. Belle? I did not turn around immediately. That was new. Once, when I was 17, I would have turned so fast my heart would have bruised itself against my ribs. Back then, Allara only had to look in my direction, and every sensible part of me packed a bag, left the country, changed its name, and abandoned me with feelings. At 27, I had improved. Now my sensible parts at least sent a postcard before leaving. I looked out at the gray water instead. Rain threaded the surface into silver needles. The ferry workers moved slowly, shoulders hunched, orange jackets bright against the morning gloom. Alder Bay sat behind us, all wet rooftops and old charm and small-town judgment disguised as concern. Allara did not step closer. That mattered. In the month after the gala, she had learned not to close distance just because she wanted to. She had learned not to turn guilt into a reason to stand too near. She had learned to ask, to wait, to let silence exist without trying to manage it. Growth, unfortunately, did not make anything simpler. "I can drive you to North Harbor," she said. "The ferry works. It leaks. So do most institutions." A pause. Then, very softly, she said, "That sounded like something Mrs. Alvarez would put on a mug." I almost smiled. I hated that. My hand tightened on the suitcase handle. My jaw had been locked since I left my apartment that morning. I could feel it all the way up behind my ears, the old pressure point where feelings went to file complaints. The ferry horn sounded again. "You don't have to go because of me," Allara said. That made me turn. She stood in the rain with no umbrella, because apparently dramatic weather still had a loyalty program with her. Her dark hair was damp at the ends. Her coat was buttoned wrong by 1 button, which no one else would have noticed, but of course I did. Allara Voss could walk into a room full of donors and make them believe gravity had applied for permission to hold her. But when she was scared, one small practical thing always came undone. A button, a sleeve cuff, her breathing. My traitorous heart noticed like it was being paid. "I'm not going because of you," I said. She looked at me. I looked back. Then, because honesty had recently become a health hazard in our town, I added, "Not only because of you." Her mouth changed. Not a smile, not pain exactly. Something quieter and worse. She had expected the truth and still did not know where to put it. "Belle." "No," I shook my head once. "Don't say it like that. If you choose the right tone, I'll forget I packed a suitcase." Her face went still. That was the thing about Allara. When she was hurt, she did not flinch loudly. She became more composed, smoother, more dangerous to my sympathy. Some women cried. Allara renovated her expression into a lobby. "I wasn't trying to stop you," she said. "I know. I just wanted to see you off." "I know that too." The ferry worker lifted the boarding rope. People began moving forward. A mother with 2 children, an old man carrying a paper bag of fishing hooks. A tourist couple dressed like Alder Bay was a concept they had seen online. I did not move. Allara noticed. Her eyes dropped briefly to my suitcase, then came back to my face. "Are you sure?" That was new too. A month ago she would have asked, "Are you leaving?" Or, "Do you want me to come?" Or, "What did I do?" Now she asked if I was sure. She put the choice back where it belonged, in my hands, which was deeply inconvenient because apparently freedom came without an instruction manual. "No," I said. "I'm not sure." Her breath caught. "But I'm going anyway." And then I picked up my suitcase and walked toward the ferry. I made it 5 steps before she spoke again. "Belle." I stopped. I did not turn. Her voice was quiet behind me. "I'll be here when you come back." The old me would have clung to that sentence like a life raft. The new me stood in the rain and understood that a life raft was still something you needed because you were drowning. So I said the most honest thing I had. "Don't wait in a way that makes me responsible for returning." The silence after that was colder than the rain. Then Allara said, "Okay, only that." Okay. No begging, no elegant argument, no promise shaped like pressure, just one word, held carefully enough that I almost turned back. I did not. I boarded the ferry with my suitcase and my fellowship letter, and the terrible knowledge that sometimes walking away was not an ending. Sometimes it was the first time you trusted your own feet. 4 weeks earlier, I had not planned to leave Alder Bay. If you like the uncensored versions of these stories, check out my Patreon in the description. I had planned to continue my very glamorous life of diagnosing ear infections, arguing with insurance forms, and pretending the clinic printer was not sentient and hostile. The printer's name was Kevin. No one had named it Kevin officially, but one day it jammed during a vaccine inventory report, made a sound like a dying goat, and printed one page that said, "Error, human intervention required." Mrs. Alvarez looked at it and said, "That is Kevin behavior." The name stayed. So did the violence. A month after Allara's public confession at the Voss Inn Gala, I was standing beside Kevin with a stack of patient intake forms, trying to negotiate with the machine like a hostage mediator. "Kevin," I said calmly, "we have discussed this." Kevin blinked red. "I respect your boundaries. Please respect mine." Kevin made a grinding sound. Mrs. Alvarez appeared behind me with a mug of coffee and the expression of a woman who had lived through 3 recessions, 2 husbands, and enough clinic gossip to qualify as a municipal archive. "Have you tried threatening it?" she asked. "I'm a healthcare professional." "So threaten it therapeutically." Before I could answer, the front door opened. My body reacted before my brain did. Jaw, shoulders, breath. The whole old system. Allara stepped into the clinic carrying a paper bag from the Thai place by the marina. No fake cough. No dramatic chest pressure. No mysterious illness involving an eyebrow, which I still suspected she had considered at least once. Just Allara, dry-eyed and careful, holding lunch like an apology with basil. Mrs. Alvarez looked from her to me, then to the paper bag. "Is that soup?" she asked. Allara nodded. "For everyone," Mrs. Alvarez repeated, in the tone of a woman dissecting evidence. Allara's eyes moved to me, then away. Yes, that was another change. In part 1 of whatever tragic medical romance my life had accidentally become, Allara left things anonymously. Soup, ginger drinks, pediatric supplies, acts of care delivered like secret weather. Now she said what she meant. For everyone. Not just for you, Belle. Not a trap. Not a claim, not a symptom, just lunch. I hated how much that mattered. "Thank you," I said. Her shoulders eased by approximately 0.5 millimeter. Unfortunately, I noticed. Mrs. Alvarez accepted the bag and immediately peered inside. Spring rolls. This woman is either in love or running for office. Mrs. Alvarez? I said. What? I said either. Allara's ears turned pink. Not her face. Never her face if she could help it. Just the tips of her ears, the same way they had in high school when our English teacher praised her poem and she pretended not to care. My heart gave a stupid, soft little kick. I turned toward the counter and began reorganizing pens that did not require reorganization. Professionalism, as I have mentioned, is often grief with a filing system. Allara cleared her throat. I also brought the forms Dr. Kellen asked for the Voss sponsorship review. The room changed. Not dramatically. No thunder, no music. Kevin did not even explode, which showed terrible timing. But something in my chest tightened. The Voss sponsorship review had become the clinic's least favorite phrase. After the gala, several donors had increased funding because apparently public accountability and rural healthcare paired well in the local imagination. The clinic needed the money. We needed updated monitors, pediatric supplies, a second exam table that did not squeak like a haunted mattress, and eventually, if God was merciful, a printer that did not require exorcism. The problem was the Voss name. It was on checks, on emails, on donor invitations, on whispers. And now, because Allara had publicly confessed that her family had once hurt me, my name had been pulled into the narrative like a reluctant appendix. I had spent 10 years trying not to be a story people told. Now, the town had upgraded me to a sequel. Allara saw my face. I asked the board to keep your name out of all sponsorship materials. Did you? She went still. The question came out sharper than I meant it to. I could feel Mrs. Alvarez's attention settle on us like a cat on clean laundry. Allara said carefully, Yes. Without asking me? Her mouth opened, then closed. There it was. Not cruelty, not even control in the obvious way. Something quieter, older. Allara trying to protect me by deciding what I would want before I could say it. The old wound wearing better clothes. She looked down at the folder in her hands. I thought it would help. I could have softened. I knew how. I had done it for years. My whole body was trained to make other people's discomfort easier to carry. Instead, I let the silence stay. Allara swallowed. I should have asked. Yes. I'm sorry. Thank you. 2 sentences. No drama, no romantic violin. Just accountability standing awkwardly next to spring rolls. Mrs. Alvarez lifted the lunch bag. I am taking these to the staff room before one of you turns them into a metaphor. Then she left, because she was wise, nosy, and hungry. Allara and I stood by the reception counter. Kevin blinked red between us like a medical device measuring unresolved tension. I'm trying, Allara said. I know. Her eyes lifted. That was the cruel thing. I did know. I knew she was trying. I knew it in the way she stopped herself before touching my arm, in the way she texted instead of appearing at the clinic unannounced, in the way she had started therapy in North Harbor and sent me one message afterward that read, Therapy would be easier if the therapist stopped asking questions I had not approved in advance. I had stared at that message for 12 minutes. Then I wrote back, Sounds like she is doing her job. Allara replied, Betrayal from every direction. I laughed so hard, Mrs. Alvarez yelled from the supply closet, If that is romantic, hydrate after. So yes, Allara was trying. But trying did not erase the fact that my body still remembered the hallway, the letter, the laughter, the way Allara had once chosen a crowd over me, even if fear had been holding the pen. I know you're trying, I said. But sometimes your first instinct is still to manage the room before you trust me to stand in it. The words landed. Allara did not defend herself. That made it worse. She only nodded once, slowly. You're right. I hated that those 2 words could still undo me. I looked away first. Kevin spat out 1 page, both of us startled. The page drifted to the tray. It was blank. Kevin has chosen neutrality, I said. Alara's mouth twitched. Probably wise. That was how we were in those weeks. Careful, funny in the cracks, tender when the room allowed it. terrified when it did not. We had coffee twice a week at the marina, always during daylight, always in public, because apparently we were two adult women rebuilding trust with the emotional pacing of a legal deposition. Allara ordered tea. I ordered coffee. She pretended not to watch me add too much sugar. I pretended not to notice that she always selected the table where my back faced the wall, because I hated being watched without knowing by whom. Small acts. New ones. Once, a tourist at the next table recognized Allara from the Voss Inn Gala and whispered, not quietly enough, "That's the one who confessed at the charity thing." My shoulders went up. Allara noticed. She did not reach for me. She did not perform a dramatic defense. She simply stood, walked to the counter, and asked the barista if we could move to the back table because the front was too drafty. No spectacle, no claim, no making me the center of another public scene. She came back with our cups and said, "The draft was aggressive." I looked at the perfectly still air. "Nearly took me out," I said. Her smile was small and real. Those moments were dangerous because they were good. Not perfect. Good. And good was harder to walk away from than pain. Pain, at least, had the decency to look like a warning. Good came with warm cups and soft lighting, and Allara's sleeve brushing mine when she passed me a napkin. Good made you lower the walls one brick at a time and call it construction instead of surrender. Then the fellowship letter arrived. It came on a Tuesday, which was rude. Life-changing emails should not arrive between a toddler with a bead stuck in her nose and Mr. Henson's blood pressure follow-up. I opened it in the staff room while eating half a granola bar that had lived in my bag long enough to develop a backstory. Dear Ms. Monroe, we are pleased to offer you a temporary 4-week fellowship placement at North Harbor City Hospital. My brain stopped on the word pleased. Institutions were pleased very easily. They were pleased to inform you, pleased to reject you, pleased to request documentation, pleased to make you cry in a parking lot while using a subject line that included opportunity. This one, however, kept getting better. 4 weeks. Emergency medicine. Rural health advancement. Stipend covered. Temporary housing available. Start date, Monday. I read it 3 times. Then I put my phone face down and stared at the staff room sink. The faucet dripped once every 9 seconds because our clinic had priorities, and apparently plumbing was not one of them. Drip. 9 seconds. Drip. I tried to feel excited. I did feel excited. Under the excitement was something else. Relief. The kind that made my lungs expand too quickly. A clean room. A city where no one knew about the hallway. No one knew about the gala. No one knew that Allara Voss had kept my letter for 10 years and then learned how to say sorry with her whole life. No one knew me as a wound. I pressed the heel of my hand against my jaw until it loosened. That was when Mrs. Alvarez walked in. She took one look at me and said, "Either you are pregnant, fired, or finally going to fix your bangs." "I don't have bangs." "Then congratulations on the baby." I handed her the phone. She read the email. For once, she did not make a joke immediately. Her face softened in a way that made her look younger and older at the same time. "Oh, Belle. I know." "This is good." "I know." "You're allowed to look happy." "I'm processing." "You look like someone handed you a puppy and a court summons." "That is also processing." She handed the phone back. "Are you going?" I opened my mouth. No answer came out. Because beneath the fellowship and the stipend and the clean professional opportunity was one immediate, shameful thought. What about Allara? I hated that thought, not because loving someone was wrong, because I had only just started learning how to ask, what about me? "I don't know," I said. Mrs. Alvarez's eyes sharpened. Do not make your life smaller because someone finally learned how to apologize. The sentence hit so cleanly I almost sat down. I wasn't going to. She gave me a look. I was considering logistical factors. Your face said Allara Voss. My face violates patient privacy. Your face has poor HIPAA compliance. I took my phone back and looked at the email again. 4 weeks. Not forever. just long enough to breathe somewhere else, just long enough to find out who I was when I was not measuring my healing by Allara's proximity. "I think I should go," I said. Mrs. Alvarez nodded like she had already known. Then she picked up my abandoned granola bar, inspected it, and threw it in the trash. "That expired in March." "It was sealed." "So was the tomb of Tutankhamun." I laughed. Then I almost cried. That was how I knew the fellowship mattered. My body always tried comedy first. The crying had to fight its way through management. I told Allara that evening. We met at the marina after my shift, under the weak gold lights strung along the boardwalk. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like wet rope and salt and fried fish from the stall near the pier. Allara arrived exactly on time. Not early, not late. Exactly. She had started doing that after I told her early arrivals made me feel ambushed, and late arrivals made me feel 17. She listened, which was unfair. Listening made resentment complicated. She wore a dark green coat and carried 2 ginger drinks. I looked at them. She looked at me. "One is for you," she said. "The other is so Mrs. Alvarez does not accuse me of targeted hydration. Mrs. Alvarez will accuse you anyway." I assumed. We walked along the pier. The boards were slick beneath our shoes. Fishing boats knocked gently against their lines. In the distance, the Voss Inn glowed on the cliff, beautiful and exhausting. Allara noticed me looking. She did not say anything. That, too, was new. I took a breath. "I got a fellowship offer." She stopped. The space between us changed before her expression did. "Oh, North Harbor City Hospital, 4 weeks, emergency medicine, starts Monday." Her fingers tightened around her cup, only once. Then she smiled. It was almost convincing. "That's wonderful, Belle." I wanted to believe her immediately. I also wanted to search her face for every crack and use each one as evidence that leaving mattered. That was the ugly part of old wounds. Sometimes they wanted proof of love more than they wanted peace. "It's temporary," I said. Her smile softened into something real. "Still wonderful. You don't have to say it like you're reading from a card. I'm trying not to say the selfish part first." That stopped me. The wind moved between us. "What's the selfish part?" I asked. Allara looked down at the cup in her hands. Her thumb rubbed once over the cardboard sleeve. "I'll miss you." My throat tightened before I could approve the reaction. She looked up. "But that is not a reason for you not to go." There were many ways a heart could hurt. I had known the sharp kind, the hallway kind, the public kind, the kind that arrived with laughter behind you and a bathroom stall in front of you. This was different. This was the ache of someone finally doing the right thing, and discovering that the right thing still cost something. I nodded. We kept walking. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Allara said, "Do you want help with arrangements?" I stopped. She heard herself and closed her eyes for 1 second. "No," she said before I could answer. "Sorry, that was old Allara." Old Allara had excellent administrative instincts. Old Allara needed supervision. She once tried to fix my life using anonymous pediatric supplies. In my defense, children needed tongue depressors. They did. And forgiveness. They did not need that. Her laugh came out softly, then faded. "I will not arrange anything unless you ask." I believed her. That was the problem. Believing her made it easier to stay, and I needed to understand whether staying was choice or reflex. "I'm going," I said. Allara nodded. "Okay." The same word she would later say at the ferry station. Small, careful, costly. I took a sip of ginger drink so I would not have to decide what my face was doing. It was too sweet. Allara watched me. "Too much honey?" I stared at her. "What?" she asked. "You know how I take ginger drink." "I have known for 10 years. The answer slipped out before she could stop it. Then her face changed. Not regret, not exactly. Memory. I could see the old letter between us without either of us mentioning it. All the years she had kept it. All the years I had thought my feelings had been thrown away. My chest hurt in that medically annoying way that was not an emergency but still felt like one. "I need this," I said. Allara nodded again. "I know." "No, I need you to understand it." She looked at me fully then. No polished smile, no Voss-in expression. Just Allara, standing under marina lights with rainwater still caught in the seams of the world. "I do," she said. "You need somewhere my history with you is not the loudest thing in the room." My hand tightened around the cup. Sometimes she understood too well. It made me want to forgive her and punish her in the same breath. "That is a very therapist-approved sentence," I said. "She used a whiteboard." "Terrifying." "There were markers." "Did you survive?" "Barely." I laughed. Allara smiled. For one suspended second, everything felt possible. Then my phone buzzed. Dr. Kellen. I answered, expecting a staffing question. Instead, his voice was careful. "Belle, I need you to come by the clinic tomorrow morning before opening. The board wants to discuss the Voss sponsorship language." Across from me, Allara watched my face change. The marina lights blurred slightly. "What language?" I asked. Dr. Kellen sighed. And just like that, the town found another way to put my name in a room before I got there. The next morning, the clinic conference room smelled like burnt coffee and institutional anxiety. Dr. Kellen sat at the head of the table with his hands folded. 2 board members sat beside him. Mrs. Patel from the grocery store, who had once asked me about Allara's anemia theory while buying cinnamon rolls, and Mr. Danvers, a retired accountant whose eyebrows looked like they were trying to leave his face. Mrs. Alvarez was not technically supposed to be in the meeting. She attended anyway, wearing a cardigan the color of arterial blood and a smile that suggested consequences. I sat with my notebook open. My pen was lined parallel to the page. Then I moved it slightly, then moved it back, then realized everyone was watching me rearrange control in real time. Dr. Kellen cleared his throat. "Belle, this is not disciplinary." A terrible opening sentence. No good conversation in history has begun with, "This is not disciplinary." "That is reassuring," I said. Mrs. Alvarez muttered, "Sounds like a man holding a shovel near a hole." Dr. Kellen pretended not to hear her. Mrs. Patel slid a paper toward me. "The Voss-in Donor Committee proposed revised language for the clinic sponsorship announcement." I looked at the page. Alder Bay Clinic is grateful for the continued support of the Voss Community Heritage Fund, whose renewed commitment was inspired by the close personal connection between the Voss family and clinic staff. Close personal connection. Clinic staff. Not my name, but my outline. My jaw locked so hard I heard something click. Mrs. Patel looked pained. "We know it is vague." "Vague is often how gossip gets dressed for church," Mrs. Alvarez said. Mr. Danvers adjusted his glasses. "The concern is perception." I looked at him. He swallowed. "The clinic needs the sponsorship," Dr. Kellen said gently. "But we do not want your professional reputation tangled in public speculation." "Then don't approve it." Mrs. Patel tapped the paper. "The Voss Committee says this language helps explain the increase in funding after the gala without revisiting old family matters." Old family matters. That was me, apparently. A family matter. I looked down at my notebook. My handwriting from the previous day stared back at me. Kevin Toner, pediatric gloves, call North Harbor housing. Normal things. Useful things. Things that did not involve becoming a footnote in Allara's redemption arc. "Who wrote this?" I asked. No one answered quickly enough. That was answer enough. "Allara?" Dr. Kellen's face shifted. "I believe it came through the Voss Committee." "That is not what I asked." He sighed. "Mrs. Voss's office sent the draft." Mrs. Voss. Of course. The woman had temporarily left town after the gala to recover from stress, which was rich because most of the stress was hers originally and had simply been returned to sender. Apparently, she had recovered enough to weaponize phrasing. I stood. "Belle," Dr. Kellen said. "I'm fine." Mrs. Alvarez made a small sound. I looked at her. She raised both eyebrows. Fine, in our clinic, meant one of three things: stable, lying, or about to alphabetize trauma. I picked up the paper. I'll speak to Allara. Dr. Kellen looked worried. You don't have to handle this personally. I know. That was the point. I did not have to. I chose to. Allara was at the Voss Inn when I arrived. The inn looked too beautiful that morning. White balconies washed clean by rain, blue shutters sharp against the gray sky, flower boxes pretending the building was not held together by debt, history, and emotional repression. Inside, the lobby smelled like lemon polish and lilies. I hated the lilies. They always looked like flowers that had signed a non-disclosure agreement. Mara Chen stood near the front desk with a tablet in one hand and a phone in the other, looking like she had been born during a merger and raised by excellent tailoring. She saw me and smiled faintly. Belle Monroe, Mara Chen, you look medically displeased. I contain multitudes, most of them holding scalpels, I assume. I had tried not to like Mara. It had not worked. She was too competent, too observant, too willing to say exactly the thing everyone else had decided to walk around politely until it grew mold. Is Allara here? I asked. Mara's expression softened by 1 degree. In the East office, with her mother on speakerphone, which means she is either negotiating or dissociating elegantly. Can those happen at the same time? In this family, they are often paired. She gestured down the hall. I walked past framed photographs of the inn's history. Weddings, ribbon cuttings, governors, Allara as a child in a navy dress with white tights, standing beside her mother like a decorative proof of legacy. The East office door was half open. Alara's voice came through first. No, Mother, we are not using that language. My steps slowed. Mrs. Voss's voice came thin and sharp through the speakerphone. You do not get to humiliate the family publicly and then refuse practical cleanup. This is not cleanup. This is dragging Belle into something she did not consent to. She has already inserted herself into family matters. My hand tightened around the paper. Alara's voice changed. Quiet. Dangerous. Do not speak about her like that. There was a silence. Then Mrs. Voss said, You are still so sentimental. I thought public disgrace might cure you. Allara laughed once. It was not humor. No, it cured my obedience. I stood outside the door with my breath caught somewhere behind my ribs. Part of me wanted to enter and say something sharp. Part of me wanted to leave before I heard anything that could make me stay. Then Allara said, The clinic will receive support through an independent trust or not at all. Belle's name will not be used. Her work will not be reduced to our family drama. And if you try to imply a personal connection again, I will release a statement clarifying exactly who wrote the language and why I rejected it. Mrs. Voss said something I could not hear. Allara answered, Yes, I am threatening you politely. I learned from the best. Despite myself, my mouth twitched. Then the call ended. For a moment, Allara did not move. Through the doorway, I could see only part of her, one hand braced on the desk, shoulders held too still, head bowed. The controlled surface remained, but something beneath it had started to shake. Not dramatically. Allara did not collapse. She did not perform vulnerability for an audience. She simply stood alone in a room that smelled like paper, polish, and family damage, and let her hand tremble where no one was supposed to see. Except I did, because I always noticed the worst possible things. I knocked lightly on the doorframe. Allara looked up. For 1 second, everything unguarded in her face reached for me. Then she saw the paper in my hand. Her expression changed. You saw the draft? Yes. I didn't approve it. I heard. She searched my face, cautious. How much did you hear? Enough to know your mother should not be allowed near adjectives. A tired laugh escaped her. Then she sank into the chair behind the desk and pressed 2 fingers to her forehead. I am sorry, she said. I told her no yesterday. She sent it anyway. I believe you. Her hand lowered. The sentence had surprised both of us. I did believe her. That did not mean I felt safe. This was the infuriating complexity adult life kept insisting on. Two things could be true at once. Allara could be trying. Her mother could be dangerous. I could trust the moment and still not trust the pattern. I stepped into the office and placed the draft on her desk. This is why I need to go. Allara went very still. To North Harbor, I clarified, though we both knew what I meant. Her eyes dropped to the paper. She nodded once. I hated her for making it easier. You don't disagree? I asked. I disagree with every selfish part of myself. And the rest? The rest knows you need distance from all this. All this. The inn, the Voss name, the committee, the town, the old wound, the new, almost, her. I looked at the wall behind her desk. There was a framed photograph of the inn from 1952, all bright paint and impossible optimism. I don't want to punish you, I said. I know. I'm not leaving to make you suffer. I know that, too. Stop knowing things. It makes arguing less efficient. Her mouth softened. I should not have looked at it. I'm sorry, she said. For knowing things? For being the reason you have to ask whether staying is safe. There it was. No defense. No polished explanation. No desperate plea. Just the truth, placed between us gently enough that I had nowhere to hide from it. My shoulders lowered a little. Then I made them rise again, because apparently healing could be petty. Allara noticed. Of course she did. Do you want me to stay away until you leave? She asked. The question hurt. Not because it was wrong, because it was right. I don't know. That is becoming your favorite word. It is the safest one I have. I looked at her then. Really looked. Allara sat behind the desk she had inherited before she ever chose it. Papers arranged in perfect stacks. Dark hair tucked behind one ear. Face pale with the effort of not asking for something she had no right to demand. This was the woman who had once hurt me because she was afraid. This was also the woman trying to love me without turning fear into a weapon again. I did not know what to do with both. So I did what I always did when emotions became diagnostically unclear. I gave instructions. I need the clinic language removed. Already done. I need the sponsorship separated from your family's public story. I'm working on an independent trust structure with Mara. I need you not to solve my life for me. Her eyes met mine. I know. And I need... The sentence stopped, because the next words were dangerous. I need you. I need space. I need to know those can both exist without one destroying the other. Allara waited. The old Allara would have filled the silence. The new one sat in it with me. I swallowed. I need to go to North Harbor without feeling like I'm abandoning you. Something broke open in her face, only for a second. Then she said, You are not abandoning me. My throat tightened. I might not text often. Okay. I might need time. Okay. I might come back and still not know what I want. Her hand curled once on the desk, then opened. Then I'll believe you when you tell me. It would have been easier if she had failed. That was the ugly, honest thought. If she had begged, pressured, panicked, I could have left with clean anger. I could have folded my pain into righteousness and carried it like luggage. Instead, she was trying to become safe, and I still needed to leave. That was the first time I understood that healing was not a reward system. Someone else could change, and you might still need distance. Someone could finally become softer, and your body might still remember the old blade. I nodded. Then I left before my resolve could develop complications. For the next 3 days, Allara stayed away. Not completely. Her presence remained in the town because Allara Voss could stay away and still somehow affect the air pressure. But she did not come to the clinic. She did not text unless necessary. She did not appear outside my apartment with soup and a tragic expression. which I appreciated and resented in equal measure. I packed badly. I am excellent at wound care, patient histories, and making 12-hour shifts look survivable. I am terrible at packing. Packing requires a person to imagine a future version of herself and anticipate what that woman might need. I did not trust future Belle. Future Belle might need a black blazer. Future Belle might need running shoes. Future Belle might need the old cardigan she wore when anxious, even though it made her look like a substitute librarian with unresolved feelings. I packed all three, then unpacked the cardigan, then repacked it, then stared at my suitcase like it had personally betrayed me. Mrs. Alvarez called during Phase 4 of textile warfare. "Do not take the ugly cardigan," she said. I looked around my apartment. "How did you know?" "Because you always take it when you are pretending you are not scared. It's comfortable. It has the emotional structure of wet cardboard." I am hanging up. "Take the navy sweater, the one that makes you look like you might accept a compliment without biting." "I do not bite." "You medically nibble." I sat on the floor beside my suitcase and laughed until the sound became something else. Mrs. Alvarez went quiet. There are people who ask if you are okay because they want reassurance. Mrs. Alvarez was not one of them. She waited. My hand tightened around the navy sweater. "I keep thinking," I said slowly, "that if I leave now, I'm proving something. But I don't know what." "That you have legs?" "Mrs. Alvarez, I am giving you a gentle answer first." I looked toward the window. Rain moved down the glass in uneven lines. Across the street, the bakery lights were still on, warm and golden. Alder Bay always looked kinder from behind a window. "I don't want to run away." "Then don't." "I also don't want to stay because leaving feels mean." "Then don't do that either." "You make it sound simple." "No, I make it sound like yours." The Sentient sat down beside me. "Yours. My choice, my fear, my life. Not Allara's redemption, not the town's story, not Mrs. Voss's damage control. Mine." I pressed the sweater to my lap. "What if I come back and everything is different?" "Good," Mrs. Alvarez said. I laughed weakly. That is not comforting. Comfort is overrated. Circulation is better. I don't think that is medically accurate. I am 72. Accuracy is for people with cartilage. After we hung up, I unpacked the ugly cardigan. This time, I left it out. The donor event happened the night before I was supposed to leave. I did not want to go. In fact, I wanted to fake an illness so I could avoid it, which would have been thematically inappropriate and possibly offensive to my own story. But Dr. Kellen asked me to attend as the clinic representative for the independent trust announcement. He looked apologetic when he asked, which meant he knew exactly how much I would hate it. "You can say no," he said. "I know." "Really?" "Yes." "You're doing the thing where you say you know, but your face is organizing a martyrdom spreadsheet." I stared at him. He shrugged. "Mrs. Alvarez has been teaching me." Terrifying. I went because the clinic mattered. That was the truth. I loved our uneven floors, our peppermint bowl, our possessed printer, our patients who treated medical privacy like a rumor with optional boundaries. I loved that Mrs. Alvarez knew which elderly patients needed actual calls and which ones only needed someone to notice they had gone quiet. I loved that Dr. Kellen still handwrote thank you notes to volunteers because he believed gratitude should have ink on it. The clinic was not Allara. It was mine, too. So I put on the navy dress from the gala, then immediately changed because wearing the same dress felt like inviting narrative symmetry, and narrative symmetry had already ruined several months of my life. I wore black trousers, a cream blouse, and the navy sweater Mrs. Alvarez approved. When I arrived at the Voss Inn, the lobby had been arranged for donors, with white flowers, silver trays, and enough polished glass to make everyone look like they had a secret. Mara stood near the entrance, speaking to two investors. Allara stood across the room beside her mother. Mrs. Voss had returned. Of course she had. Villains rarely missed donor events. They thrived in rooms with floral arrangements and plausible deniability. She wore pale gray and pearls, her posture perfect, her smile thin enough to cut fruit. Allara wore black, simple, elegant, controlled. Then she saw me. Her expression did not change enough for anyone else to notice, but the hand at her side opened. One small movement. There you are. My chest answered before I could stop it. Dr. Sienna Park found me near the clinic display. She was the North Harbor Fellowship mentor, tall and composed, with silver-rimmed glasses and the calm confidence of someone who had survived hospital administration and no longer feared earthly systems. "Belle Monroe?" she asked. "Yes. Sienna Park. I'll be supervising your rotation." Her handshake was warm and firm. I liked her immediately. This was inconvenient because my life had limited space for competent women with controlled voices. "I've heard good things," she said. "From whom?" "Dr. Kellen, your application essays. Also, Mrs. Alvarez, who called our department coordinator and informed her that if we damaged you, she knew where to send a fruit basket with intent." I closed my eyes. "She means well." "She sounds terrifying." "She contains multitudes, most of them armed." Sienna laughed. It was easy. That was the first thing I noticed. Not romantic, not charged, just easy. There was a kind of relief in speaking to someone who did not know the shape of my old wound. Sienna looked at me and saw a clinician, a fellow, a woman with potential. Not a love letter, not a hallway, not the girl Allara Voss had once publicly refused. Across the room, Allara watched us. She did not look angry. That almost made it worse. She looked careful, like jealousy had approached her and she had chosen not to let it drive. Progress was deeply annoying. Sienna followed my glance because apparently all competent women were also inconveniently observant. "Complicated?" she asked. I took a sip of sparkling water. "The word has applied for residency." She smiled. "I won't ask." "Thank you. But for what it's worth, leaving town for 4 weeks will either make the answer clearer or make your avoidance more scenic." I stared at her. She lifted her glass. "Mentorship begins immediately." I liked her less. The event began with Mara speaking. She introduced the new trust structure with elegant brutality. The clinic funding would be transferred into an independently managed community health trust, separating donations from Voss family branding and protecting the clinic from future personal or political leverage. She did not say leverage like a threat. She said it like a woman who had already buried the body of several bad contracts. Then Dr. Kellen spoke about rural healthcare access. Then, unfortunately, Mrs. Voss approached the small podium. I felt Allara tense from across the room. Mrs. Voss smiled at the donors. "We are, of course, proud to support Alder Bay Clinic, an institution that has become personally meaningful to our family in recent months." My hand tightened around my glass. There it was, personally meaningful. Not as bad as the draft, still pointed, still scented with lilies and control. Mrs. Voss continued. "Especially as Allara reconnects with dear friends from her youth." The room turned subtly, not fully, not rudely, just enough. That was how public scrutiny worked in polite rooms. No one stared directly. They adjusted their attention and pretended it was posture. My skin went cold. Mrs. Voss's eyes found me. Then, with perfect softness, she said, "Belle has been almost like a close family friend." Family friend. The words did not sound cruel. That was their violence. They sounded harmless, respectable, clean. And suddenly I was 17 again, standing near a trophy case while Allara looked at my letter like it was something embarrassing stuck to her shoe. "Belle, don't make this weird. Family friend. Close personal connection. Old family matter. Different words, same room." I set my glass down carefully. My pulse stayed steady. That was the strange part. No racing heart, no shaking hands, no dizziness. My body, which had betrayed me so many times in Allara's presence, became very calm. Not peaceful, Finished. Allara moved before I did. "Mother." One word. The room stopped breathing. Mrs. Voss turned, smile fixed. "Yes, dear?" Allara stepped forward. I knew that walk. I had seen it at the gala. The Voss air walk. The controlled woman walk. The walk that made investors straighten and wait. But I did not wait. That was the difference. I picked up my coat. Allara saw me. Her face changed. Not panic. Recognition. She knew exactly what her mother had done. She knew exactly where it had landed inside me. She took one step toward me, then stopped herself. Good. Because if she had followed, I might have let the scene become hers. Instead, I walked out. Not running, not trembling. Not 17. I walked past donors, past the white flowers, past Mara's sharp, quiet eyes, past Sienna's concerned stillness, through the lobby that smelled like lilies and lemon polish, and out into the cold air. The porch doors closed behind me. Rain had started again. Of course it had. Alder Bay weather had no originality. I made it down the front steps before the door opened. I did not turn. "Belle!" Allara. I closed my eyes. My jaw hurt. When I turned, she was standing at the top of the steps. Rain touched her hair. Behind her, through the glass, the donor event glowed warm and humiliating. She looked like she wanted to come down to me. She did not. "Don't," I said. She stopped. "I'm sorry." "I know you are." The words came out flat. Her face tightened. That was my mother. I didn't know she would say that. "I know." "Belle?" "No." My voice shook once, then steadied. "No, Allara. This is the part where I don't stand there and wait for you to fix the room after it hurts me." She went still. I was going to say something. "I know that too." Rain slid down the back of my neck. I barely felt it. The old wound was open, but the strange thing was that I could see it now. Not become it. See it. "You keep trying to protect me by deciding what people get to know about me," I said. "Or what they don't. Or when. Or how. And maybe this time it was your mother. Maybe this time you were going to stop her. But I can't keep living in the seconds between someone hurting me and you deciding whether you're brave enough to correct them." Allara flinched. The smallest movement. It hurt to see. I kept going because stopping would be easier, and I was done choosing easy just because someone else looked wounded. That's not protection. That's the old wound wearing better clothes. Her eyes filled. She did not cry. I almost wished she would. Crying would have made her easier to hate or easier to comfort. Allara standing still and taking the truth was much harder. "You're right," she whispered. I laughed once. It sounded awful. "I know." I took a step backward. Her hand moved, not reaching fully, just the beginning of old instinct. Then she stopped herself. Her fingers curled into her palm. "I won't follow you if you don't want me to," she said. My throat tightened. Good. "Do you want me to?" There it was. The choice, offered even when it hurt. I looked at her through the rain. I loved her. I hated that love did not make me less tired. "No," I said. The word landed between us like a door closing softly. Alara's face did not crumple. She nodded. Once. Then she stepped back. I walked away from the Voss Inn with rain soaking through my navy sweater and my suitcase still unpacked at home. No music, no dramatic speech. Just my shoes on the wet path and the feeling of my own hand unclenching around nothing. The ferry left at 8 the next morning. Allara came to the station. I already told you that part. But there are things I did not tell you. How I almost did not go. How I stood in my apartment at 6 that morning, staring at the ugly cardigan on the chair, and thought about packing it after all. How my phone lit up once with a message from Allara at 6:17. I did not open it immediately. I made coffee. I burned the first piece of toast. I fed Mrs. Alvarez's emergency plant because she had decided my apartment needed something alive that was not emotionally avoidant. Then I opened the message. Allara had written, "I am sorry for last night. You were right. I am not going to explain, defend, or ask you to make it hurt less. I will handle the trust today. I hope North Harbor gives you everything you need. You do not have to answer." Below it was a second message, sent 4 minutes later. "Also, please eat breakfast. Not because I am controlling you, because you are frighteningly willing to call coffee a food group when distressed." I sat on the edge of my bed and laughed. Then I cried. Both reactions were inconvenient, so I considered documenting them as a mixed presentation. At the ferry station, Allara did not mention the message. She did not ask if I had read it. She did not ask what it meant. She only stood in the rain and let me leave. That was the first proof. North Harbor smelled like diesel, wet concrete, and ambition. The city hospital was enormous compared to Alder Bay Clinic. It had multiple wings, actual elevators, a cafeteria with suspiciously edible soup, and printers that worked so quietly I did not trust them. My temporary housing was a small apartment 6 blocks away with white walls, a narrow bed, and a view of another building's brickside. No ocean, no Voss Inn on a cliff, no clinic door with 3 dramatic knocks. The silence felt sterile at first. Then, slowly, it felt clean. On my first day, Dr. Sienna Park handed me a badge, a schedule, and a coffee strong enough to negotiate with death. "Welcome to North Harbor," she said. "Is the coffee part of orientation or a warning?" "Yes." I liked the hospital rhythm more than I expected. It was fast, but not intimate in the same way. Patients came through, problems arrived with blood pressure readings and lab values, and clear next steps. No one asked if I was secretly in love with an heiress. No one knew my teenage humiliation history. No one called me Miracle Doctor because Allara Voss once fainted near my clinic door and turned my life into public entertainment. I was just Belle Monroe. Competent, tired, learning. On the 3rd day, I treated a teenager with a sprained wrist who kept apologizing for crying. "Pain does not become less valid because you are embarrassed," I told her, wrapping the bandage. She sniffed. "I hate crying in public." Very understandable. Public crying should require permits and soft lighting. She laughed through tears. After she left, I stood by the sink for a moment longer than necessary. My hands smelled like soap and latex. The words I had said to her stayed in the air. Pain does not become less valid because you are embarrassed. I wondered how many things I had believed for patients but refused to apply to myself, probably enough to require a spreadsheet. That night, I did not text Allara. I wanted to. I wrote 3 messages. North Harbor printers are suspiciously obedient. Deleted. Sienna drinks coffee like she is challenging mortality. Deleted. I miss you, and I hate that it feels like a symptom. Deleted so fast my thumb nearly sprained itself. Instead, I washed my face, microwaved soup from the hospital cafeteria, and ate it sitting on the floor because the apartment chair looked ornamental and hostile. Choosing yourself, I discovered, involved a surprising amount of mediocre soup. Allara did not flood me with messages. That was the second proof. Once every few days, she sent something small and answer optional. Mrs. Alvarez has declared Kevin a union organizer. Mara says the trust paperwork is almost civilized, which I think means no one has threatened litigation today. Therapy update. I successfully did not explain my therapist's job to her for 42 minutes. Personal record. I answered when I wanted, sometimes immediately, sometimes the next day, sometimes not at all. Allara accepted every version. That was the third proof. On the 2nd week, Mrs. Alvarez sent me a photo of Kevin with a sticky note attached to it. "Do not let the city steal you. Also, buy toner." I stared at the photo in the hospital break room until Sienna sat across from me. "Clinic?" she asked. "Printer hostage situation." "Serious?" "Chronic." She smiled, then studied my face with the directness of someone who asked difficult questions for a living and did not apologize for it. "You're calmer here." I looked down at my coffee. "That sounds like an accusation." "It's an observation. Doctors love saying that before ruining your day." "I'm not ruining it, just noticing." I stirred my coffee even though it needed nothing. I don't know if calmer means happier. No, Sienna said. It means your nervous system is getting data. That was exactly the kind of sentence a mentor said before your personal life became homework. Data is annoying. Frequently. She leaned back. Do you want to stay in North Harbor? I did not answer, because the truth was complicated. I loved parts of it, the clean anonymity, the equipment that worked, the way people respected my role without attaching it to a town narrative, the way my body did not prepare for gossip every time a door opened. But I missed Alder Bay. I missed the ocean. I missed Mrs. Alvarez weaponizing peppermint candies. I missed Dr. Kellen's terrible handwriting. I miss knowing which patients lied about taking their blood pressure medication because they looked left before answering. And I missed Allara. Not the drama, not the wound. Allara. The woman who was trying, the woman who sent careful messages, the woman who had learned that love was not an emergency she got to manage. I don't know, I said. Sienna nodded. Good. That is not usually considered an answer. It is if it's honest. I hated mentorship. By the third week, I stopped measuring my day by whether Allara texted. That scared me. Then it relieved me. Then the relief scared me. Emotional progress was just panic in better shoes. I started sleeping through the night. I bought vegetables. I called Mrs. Alvarez and let her complain about a patient who brought his own blood pressure cuff for comparison, as if the clinic equipment had entered a competition. I walked along the harbor after shifts and listened to city rain hit pavement instead of clinic windows. One evening, I passed a stationery shop and saw a display of cream envelopes. My body stopped before my mind understood why. Letters. For 10 years, the word had lived inside me with teeth. The letter I wrote Allara at 17, the one she kept. The one that had become proof, wound, and relic all at once. I stood outside the shop window while commuters moved around me. Then I went inside. I bought one envelope, not a pack. One. The cashier did not ask why, because city people had manners disguised as indifference. Back in my apartment, I placed the envelope on the small table and stared at it for an unreasonable amount of time. I did not write to Allara. Not then. Instead, I wrote to myself, Dear Belle. I stopped. It felt ridiculous. Then I kept going, because many useful medical procedures also looked ridiculous from the outside. Dear Belle. You were not pathetic. That was all I wrote for a long time. 3 words. Then the rest came slowly. You were brave. You loved someone honestly. Someone else's fear turned that honesty into shame, but the shame was never yours. You do not have to become hard to prove you healed. You do not have to stay gone to prove you can leave. You do not have to forgive on command. You do not have to punish yourself by refusing joy when it finally learns how to knock. My hand shook by the end. I folded the paper, put it in the envelope, wrote no name on the front. Then I sat on the floor and cried quietly enough that the apartment did not know what to do with me. That was the 4th proof, though not from Allara, from me. I was starting to believe my own pain without needing someone else to validate it. The trust announcement happened during my 4th week. I watched it on a live stream from the hospital break room because Mrs. Alvarez sent the link with the message, Watch this. Also, your hair looks flat in city air. Come home eventually. I opened the stream. The Voss Inn conference room appeared on my phone screen. Mara stood at the podium. Dr. Kellen sat beside her. Mrs. Patel was there, several donors, a few reporters from the local paper. Allara stood to the side, not center. That was the first thing I noticed. She could have stood center. The Voss name still opened rooms. Even after everything, people would have looked to her. But she stood beside the wall, in a simple black suit, hands folded, face calm. Mara introduced the independent Alder Bay Community Health Trust. Funding secured for 3 years. Oversight independent. Clinic protected from donor influence. Public materials focused on healthcare access, not family narratives. Then Dr. Kellen spoke. Then, unexpectedly, Allara stepped forward. My breath caught. Sienna, sitting across from me with a salad, glanced up. "You okay?" "No." "Good no or bad no?" "Data pending." Allara stood at the podium. For a moment, she looked down at her notes. Then she set them aside. Of course she did. My heart, inconsiderate organ that it was, started paying attention like it had purchased front-row tickets. Allara said, "There has been public curiosity about why this trust is being created." The room went very still. Some of that curiosity has involved people who did not ask to become part of the Voss family's public history. My hand tightened around the phone. Allara continued, voice steady. "So I want to be clear. Alder Bay Clinic does not owe my family a story. Its staff do not owe my family silence, loyalty, forgiveness, or personal access. This trust exists because healthcare in this town should not depend on anyone's private pain, anyone's reputation, or anyone's relationship to the Voss name." The break room disappeared. The phone screen blurred. Allara's voice remained. "The clinic earned support through its work. Belle Monroe earned respect through her work. She is not a family friend used for donor warmth. She is not a symbol in anyone's redemption. She is a medical professional who has served this town with more patience than most of us deserved." Sienna quietly slid a napkin toward me. I took it without looking. On screen, Allara's face was composed, but I knew her tells. The slight tension at her jaw, the controlled breath before the next sentence, the way her left hand pressed lightly against the podium, grounding herself. "I have spent too much of my life confusing protection with control," she said. "I will not do that here. Not to the clinic, not to this town, not to Belle." My chest hurt. Not like panic, like something frozen had begun to thaw and did not know what shape water was supposed to take. If Belle chooses to return to Alder Bay, she should return to her work, her home, and her own life. Not to whispers, not to obligation, not to anyone waiting in a way that makes her responsible for their healing. The words hit so precisely that I had to lower the phone. "Don't wait in a way that makes me responsible for returning." She had heard me. Not just the sentence, the wound under it. Sienna's voice was gentle. "Belle?" I stared at the table. The hospital break room hummed around me. Refrigerator, fluorescent light, a resident laughing near the vending machine. Normal life continuing while my heart quietly rearranged itself. I lifted the phone again. Allara looked directly into the camera, not because she knew I was watching, or maybe because she hoped. Either way, she said the last part softly. "Love should not be another room someone has to survive. It should be a door they are free to walk through, or away from." Then she stepped back. No confession, no plea, no dramatic claim, just action. Public, clear, costly. The room applauded, but she did not look relieved. She looked like someone who had finally put something down and discovered her hands were empty. The stream ended 5 minutes later. I sat still. Sienna ate a piece of lettuce with medical calm. Finally, she said, "Data?" I wiped my face. Annoying. Usually important, then. "I hate that you mentor accurately." It's on my badge. That night I opened my messages. Allara had not texted. Not one word. No, "Did you see?" No, "I hope that helped." No, "Please understand." Nothing. She had done the thing and left it alone. That was the 5th proof. I wrote a message anyway. I saw it. Then I stared at the screen. 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Appeared again. Stopped. Then Allara replied. I laughed. Cried. Then typed, "You and that word." She replied, "It is still the safest one I have." I held the phone against my chest like a teenager, which was humiliating because I had worked very hard to become a controlled adult with decent posture. Then I wrote, "Thank you." This time her reply came after a long pause. "You never have to thank me for telling the truth too late, but I'm glad you saw it." I did not answer. Not because I had nothing to say. because for once, the silence did not feel like punishment. It felt like space. My final week ended on a Friday, with rain. Of course. North Harbor rain was different from Alder Bay rain. City rain hit pavement and glass and traffic lights. It smelled like concrete and bus exhaust. Alder Bay rain smelled like ocean and wood, and every unresolved conversation I had ever tried to avoid. Sienna found me in the emergency department supply room, counting gauze with unnecessary intensity. She said, "Most people do not glare at gauze unless it has personally disappointed them. It knows what it did. Are you going home?" I kept counting. 1, 2, 3, home. The word had changed while I was away. When I left, home meant the place that knew too much. Now it meant something less certain. A town, a clinic, a woman who had learned not to chase, a door I might choose. "I don't know," I said. Sienna leaned against the shelf. "Do you want advice, or do you want me to stand here silently so you can pretend the gauze is the problem?" "Silent gauze support, please." She waited exactly 3 seconds. "I'm bad at that," she said. "I am shocked." She smiled. "You seemed happier this week." "I was." "And sadder." "Also true." "Good." I looked at her. "You keep saying good at emotionally inconvenient times." "Because you keep mistaking mixed feelings for warning signs." The gauze blurred slightly. Sienna's voice softened. "Sometimes mixed feelings just mean you are finally telling the whole truth." I set the gauze down. My jaw was not locked. That was what I noticed. My shoulders were not hovering near my ears. My hands were not reorganizing the shelf. My body, rude and honest thing, was not trying to escape the feeling. It was only standing inside it. "I miss her," I said. Sienna nodded. "I also liked being here." "Both can be true." "I'm scared if I go back, I'll disappear into her life again." "Then don't disappear." "That is your advice?" "It's very expensive advice. The hospital will bill you." I laughed. Then I said, "What if she changes only because she's afraid to lose me?" Sienna considered that. "Then time will show you." I hate time. Most patients do. I returned to Alder Bay on Sunday afternoon. I did not tell Allara. That was not a test. At least, I told myself it was not a test. It was a choice. Mine. The ferry cut through gray water under a low sky. I stood near the railing with my suitcase beside me and the unlabeled letter in my coat pocket. You were not pathetic. The words rested against me like a pulse. Alder Bay appeared slowly. The harbor, the wet rooftops, the church steeple, the clinic sign near the main road, the Voss Inn watching from the cliff like a beautiful problem. My chest tightened, then loosened. Not safe, not unsafe. Mine to decide. Mrs. Alvarez met me at the dock. She wore a yellow raincoat and held a cardboard sign that said, "Welcome back, City Doctor. Kevin missed you." I stared at it. "You made a sign?" "Do not get emotional. The back says, 'Buy toner.'" I hugged her. She let me. For 3 seconds. Then she patted my back. "Enough. My bones are unionized." Dr. Kellen had given me 2 days before returning to the clinic, but I went in anyway because apparently personal growth did not cure poor boundaries with work. The clinic smelled the same. Antiseptic, peppermint, printer resentment. Kevin jammed within 20 minutes. I nearly cried from nostalgia. The first day back, Allara did not come. I told myself I was relieved. The second day, she still did not come. I told myself I was busy. The third day, Mrs. Alvarez placed a ginger drink on the counter at 4 p.m. My heart made a stupid movement. "Did she bring this?" I asked. "No." I looked at her. "I did," Mrs. Alvarez said. "You looked like you were about to start diagnosing the stapler." I was not. The stapler looked anxious. I drank the ginger drink. It had too much honey. I smiled anyway. That evening, I closed the clinic late. The waiting room lights were off. Rain touched the windows softly. The peppermint bowl was full because Mrs. Alvarez had restocked it with the grim satisfaction of a woman preparing for emotional warfare. I stood by the glass door for a long moment. The first night Allara came back to my life, she had knocked on that door in the rain like a memory demanding treatment. 3 sharp hits. Desperate. This time, no one knocked. So I picked up my coat, locked the clinic behind me, and walked to the Thai place by the marina. I bought 2 ginger drinks, one with too much honey, one without. Then I walked to the Voss Inn. Each step felt ordinary and impossible. The cliff road smelled like wet grass and salt. The inn glowed above the water, less like a monument now and more like a house trying to learn how to be lived in by honest people. Mara was leaving when I arrived. She looked at the drinks in my hands, then at me, her mouth curved. "I see the fellowship improved your cardiovascular courage." "I bought beverages, not a sword." "In this family, that may be more effective." "Is she here?" Mara's expression softened. "East porch." I started past her. "Belle." I turned. Mara studied me with those sharp, unkindly, kind eyes. "She didn't know if you would come back." "I know." "She made plans anyway." "What kind of plans?" "The non-invasive kind." I smiled despite myself. "Good." Mara stepped aside. "For what it's worth, she is less insufferable when you are in town." "That is not my responsibility." "No," Mara said, "but it is funny." The east porch faced the ocean. Allara stood near the railing in a gray sweater, hair loose, hands wrapped around a mug. She looked different from the woman at donor events, softer around the edges, tired, real. She turned when she heard the door. For a second, she did not move. The old Allara might have hidden surprise. The new one let it reach her face. "Belle." I held up the drinks. "I brought medically questionable sugar water." Her eyes dropped to them, then lifted. A smile trembled at her mouth. "You came back." "I said I was going for 4 weeks." "You also said you might come back and not know what you wanted." "I still don't know everything." She nodded, her face said, but this time she did not say the word. I stepped onto the porch and handed her the sweeter drink. Her fingers brushed mine. Both of us noticed. Neither of us made it dramatic. Progress. We stood side by side, looking at the water. Rain fell lightly, the kind that did not demand attention. The ocean moved below us, dark and steady. "I saw the trust announcement," I said. Alara's hand tightened around the cup. "I thought you might." "You didn't text after?" "No." "Why?" She looked out at the water. "Because if I did it for you, then asking you to see it would make it smaller." My chest hurt. Softly this time. Annoyingly. I took the unlabeled envelope from my pocket. Allara saw it. Everything in her went still. Not fear like before. Reverence, almost. Like paper had become a sacred and dangerous species between us. "This isn't for you," I said. She nodded slowly. "It's for me." Her eyes shone. "I wrote down what I needed someone to say when I was 17. Allara did not ask to read it. That was the 6th proof. She only said, "I'm glad someone finally did." Rain moved along the porch roof. I looked at the envelope in my hand, then at her. "I'm not ready to pretend everything is healed." "I know." "I need to keep my life mine." "Yes." "If we do this, I need slow. Real slow. Painfully slow. Possibly involving forms." A laugh broke out of her, quiet and surprised. "I can do forms." "You love forms." "I respect structure." "You once turned feelings into clinic visits." "I have grown." Debatable. Her smile reached her eyes, then faded into something tender. "I don't want to be the room you survive, Belle." The sentence moved through me. No performance, no pleading, no polished Voss answer. Just the thing I had been waiting to hear without knowing it. "I know," I said. And I did. Not completely, not forever, but enough to stand there, enough not to leave. Allara looked down at our hands, close but not touching. Can I ask something? Yes? If I reach for you, and you decide you don't want that, will you tell me? My throat tightened. Choice. Again and again she kept putting it back in my hands. Yes, I said. Then... She stopped. The silence held. Then Allara slowly opened her hand on the railing between us, not taking, offering. I looked at it, at her long fingers, the slight tremor she could not hide, the space she left for refusal. My body answered before my mind could create a committee. My jaw loosened, my shoulders dropped. I placed my hand in hers. Allara inhaled like she had been given something fragile and did not trust herself not to break it. Her hand was warm. Her pulse jumped once beneath my fingers, then steadied. Still dramatic, I whispered. She laughed and the sound shook. I'm working on it. I know. For a while we stood on the east porch of the Voss Inn, rain falling around us, the ocean breathing below. Both of us older than the girls we had been, and not yet certain what kind of women we could become together. Then Allara looked toward the glass doors. The lobby glowed behind them. Staff moved between tables. Mara stood near the front desk, pretending to check something on her tablet with the subtlety of a woman watching a fireworks show through binoculars. Alara's thumb moved lightly over my knuckles, then stopped. Would you like me to let go before we go inside? She asked. The question was small. The damage it repaired was not. Years ago, Allara had let go of me in public because she was afraid. Now she was offering to let go in public because she respected me. That was the difference. That was almost the whole story. I looked at our hands, then at the woman beside me, who had once made me feel like my love was something embarrassing to survive, and now held it like a door she had no right to lock. No, I said. Her breath caught. I squeezed her hand once. If I choose this, I said, I don't want to hide it just because other people made it hurt before. Alara's face changed. Not relief exactly, something more careful, something brighter because it knew it had no right to demand light. She whispered. I groaned. You and that word. It is still the safest one I have. Then keep it, I said, but walk beside me while you use it. So she did. We walked back through the Voss Inn lobby hand in hand. No announcement, no dramatic speech, no music swelling from the ceiling, because the universe had already spent its entire budget on rain. But people noticed. Of course they noticed. A server paused with a tray of champagne. 2 guests near the fireplace went silent. Mara's tablet slowly lowered like a curtain falling at the end of a very expensive play. Allara did not tighten her grip. She did not show me off. She did not look around to see who approved. She simply walked beside me, hand open enough that I could leave it, warm enough that I knew she hoped I would not. Mara met us near the lobby entrance. Her eyes dropped to our joined hands, then lifted to my face. Well, she said, the fellowship clearly improved your cardiovascular courage. I bought beverages and held a hand, I said. Please don't make this a diagnosis. In this family, that is basically a constitutional reform. Allara made a quiet sound that was almost a laugh and almost embarrassment. Mara looked at her. And you, try not to ruin it with paperwork. I was told forms may be involved. Mara's gaze returned to me, sharp and unkindly kind. Good, she said. Make her sign slowly. I should not have laughed. I did anyway. The sound loosened something in the room. Not everything. Not the past. Not the Voss name, or the gala, or the hallway, or the girl I had been. But something. Enough. Later, Allara walked me down the cliff road toward the clinic. The rain had softened to mist, turning the streetlights gold and blurry. Our hands were not joined the whole way. Sometimes we walked close. Sometimes space opened between us. Sometimes our sleeves brushed, and both of us pretended not to notice with absolutely no success. At the clinic door, I stopped. The waiting room was dark behind the glass. The peppermint bowl sat on the counter like Mrs. Alvarez had prepared for emotional emergencies in advance. Kevin, visible through the office doorway, slept with the false innocence of a printer plotting war. "This place still smells like stress and candy," Allara said. "That's healthcare." "It missed you." Kevin jammed 20 minutes after I came back. He expressed himself passionately, illegally. Her smile came easier this time. I unlocked the clinic and stepped inside. After a moment, I looked back. Allara stood just outside the doorway, waiting, not assuming, not entering just because she wanted to. I remembered the girl I had been at 17, standing in a hallway with her heart in both hands and no way to take it back. I remembered North Harbor, the clean apartment, the city rain, the letter I had written to myself. "You were not pathetic." I still had it in my coat pocket. I touched the envelope once. Then I said, "You can come in." Allara did, slowly, as if the room itself had rules she wanted to respect. I walked to my desk and opened the top drawer. Inside were patient forms, spare pens, a half-empty roll of antacids Mrs. Alvarez claimed were for emergencies, and absolutely no space for symbolism. I made space anyway. Then I placed the envelope inside. Not hidden, not worshipped, just there, part of the story. Not the whole thing. Allara watched from near the door. Her hands were clasped in front of her, still giving me space. I turned to her. "You can come closer." She did. When she stopped in front of me, the rain filled the silence. One button on her gray sweater had slipped loose. Of course it had. Allara Voss could reorganize an entire donor trust and emotionally disarm a room full of wealthy people, but one small practical thing always betrayed her when she was scared. A button, a sleeve cuff, her breathing. I reached up and touched the edge of her sweater. Her breath caught. So did mine. "You're undone," I said. Her voice was quiet. "I know." Of course she knew. This time, that made me smile. I fixed the button slowly, giving myself time to stop if I needed to. I did not need to. Her eyes stayed on my face, not consuming, not pleading, waiting. When my hand dropped, our fingers brushed. Neither of us moved away. "Your pulse is probably ridiculous," I said. "It is." "Any chest pain?" "Only the usual." "Rain-induced?" "Belle-induced." I gave her a look. She looked almost proud. That was definitely a joke. It was medically questionable. Her smile faded into something softer. "May I kiss you?" The question entered me gently. No assumption, no taking, no pressure. A choice placed carefully in my hands. I thought about the hallway, about the ferry, about North Harbor, about the Voss Inn porch and the way she had asked whether I wanted her to let go, about every version of myself that had walked, crawled, or limped to this moment. My shoulders lowered, my jaw unlocked, and for once, my body did not prepare to leave. "Yes," I said. Allara kissed me like she had learned restraint from regret and tenderness from waiting, softly, carefully, like the kiss was not proof she had won. It was proof we were both still free. When we pulled apart, she did not chase my mouth. She did not turn the moment into a promise I had not made. She only rested her forehead lightly against mine and breathed like she had been holding herself together for 10 years and had finally been allowed to set something down. Outside, rain blurred the clinic windows. Inside, nothing hurt loudly. That was new. "I'm still scared," I whispered. "I know." "I still need slow." "Yes." I might panic over furniture, donor language, public affection, and possibly soup. "I'll prepare forms." I laughed against her. Then, because I was still me, I said, "You're getting emotions on clinic property." Her laugh touched my palm when I wiped one tear from her cheek. "I'll file a report." "Use black ink," I said. Feelings looked too serious and purple. She looked at me then, really looked, and smiled like she remembered. The old letter, the purple pen, the girl I had been, the woman I had become. A month ago, I thought love would be proven by someone finally choosing me in public. Then Allara did, and I learned the harder truth. Being chosen by someone else does not matter if you abandon yourself to receive it. So I left, and she let me. And when I came back, it was not because she waited beautifully. It was not because she said the perfect thing. It was not because the town approved, or the clinic was safe, or the past stopped hurting. I came back because my life was still mine when I stood beside her, because her hand was open, because the door was not locked, because I could walk away. And this time, I chose to stay.